Today I'll be proving what John Maynard Keynes was most famous for, which is the 1 times multiplier. Like if you spend the amount of dollars, government spending, gov spending, if the government spends D dollars and they raise taxes by D dollars, then the change in GDP would equal just D, and the multiplier is just 1. And it's really simple proof. Or can you call that a proof if it's an, I don't know. I'm using the word proof lightly because this is economics and proofs are usually in mathematics. So change in GDP equal D. So I'm going to prove this. So let's start with MPC plus MPS equal 1, all right? And, okay, so we know change in GDP for government spending would be, for, let's say GS is for government spending, would be D over MPS, okay? And now we're also raising taxes by D. So that means change in GDP, raise taxes, RT, would be negative. This is a negative amount. Because when we raise taxes, people have less money to spend, and then the GDP will decrease. Minus D times MPC over MPS. Now, the total net effect, so change in GDP net would equal change in GDP GS plus change in GDP raising taxes. So so change in GDP net would equal D over MPS minus D MPC over MPS. And let's factor out 1 over MPS, or D over MPS. So we have this, D over MPS. And if we factor it out, 1 minus MPC. And something you should notice here is that if MPC plus MPS is 1, MPS equals 1 minus MPC. We just subtract both sides. So we can just make this MPS. So change in GDP net would equal D over MPS times MPS, and it would just equal D, or the multiplier in this case would be 1 times, okay? So yes, so from here, I just factor out D MPS. So this divided by D MPS is just 1. This divided by D MPS is just MPC, okay? And this is just MPS. MPS times 1 over MPS is 1. So in the end, we get that GDP net is D, or the amount of money that the government spends and the amount of money the government raises taxes. So the multiplier is 1 times. Thank you.